What's up, everybody? It's the Outlaw John Rocha here with my immediate spoiler-filled reaction and review for this last episode of Andor that dropped last night. Holy crap. Ola, what an episode. The Eye, bam, good title, pretty simple to the point. Certainly the Eye ceremony was a massive part of this episode. And again, this is a spoiler review, so if you haven't watched the episode, go and watch it and come on back and hang out with me for a few minutes. Look, there's not going to be much graphics or pop and circumstance here. Just a straight up reaction to this episode. Loved it. This was everything we were building towards, not just in the last two episodes, but certainly in the first three episodes, laying the groundwork of Andor and how he kind of figures out his life and forages and steals and stays alive and jumps from place to place. And we haven't heard much about his sister over these last three episodes for sure. If anything, I think about his sister, but the idea of losing someone to the Empire, the idea of losing a connection to a family member or someone he loves is certainly something that stays deep within him and allows him to connect with other people, as we saw with him and Skeen in the last episode where he was talking about his brother. So he is even more committed now after having revealed the fact that he was a mercenary to the entire Aldhani 7. That's what they call them. Well, they're Aldhani 6, but Andor makes them 7, about why he's there, that he's a mercenary, he's taking money, and he's committed. So we start the episode out with him and Nemik having this conversation, Nemik's idealism versus Andor's reality. You know, you can be idealistic all you want, sitting at home or sitting in your hovel or sitting in your little hut there on Aldhani, but the truth is there's once you're out there, once you actually live the experience, that changes your idealism a little bit, or sometimes maybe even reinforces it, depending on how you're built as a person. But Andor certainly telling him, hey, there's something else out there. It's the Empire doesn't care about rules, and they'll break the rules whenever they need to fit their service and fit their needs. And that's certainly what happens with any controlling empire when they've taken over lands or taken over planets in this case and try to erase cultures for sure. And speaking of cultures, we get more with the Donnies in this episode as well. We hear J-Hold talking negatively about them. We hear his approach to them and speaking about how they get confused easily. And if you throw a lot of options at them, they don't even realize that they're picking something they didn't even want from the beginning or ask for from the beginning. So certainly you're seeing yet again how the Empire can, or any, or most, if not all, empires that take over civilizations, they rely on the fact that they might be more technologically proficient or perhaps more intelligent or more knowledgeable to try to manipulate those people that they take over and use them. And certainly him saying that he was setting up huts and stuff like that, to that with the best beverages, you cannot escape the symbolism of that and what America did to Native Americans and got them hooked on alcohol and things like that early on in the process to try to take their lands and try to make them easier to be manipulated. Those kinds of things. So the symbolism is there, and I'm sure that applies to any empire. If you take a look at how an empire has taken over a country or a people that has not advanced technologically to match that empire, certainly we've seen that happen throughout history. So the symbolism there is pretty powerful. But we also know J-Hold's family is not that happy. His wife certainly has issues. He thinks his belt is constricted, and when in fact he's actually expanded. His son doesn't want to wear the Empire blouse. So what is that? The Imperial blouse. What is that all about? Is he going to have a role to play later on? And of course, J-Hold later on in the episode has that heart attack. So gladly he is out of their lives. I thought this whole setup here to what was going to happen in the heist was really good in this episode. We got the tension, the Donnies showing up. Kimsey's even got his issues going on there on the tower. And we have this colonel who's in here who's possibly going to help J-Hold and his family get out of there. And the way J-Hold explains things to him with Gorn's support, we see Gorn just monitoring them both. We see Gorn playing his role really well in this situation to move everybody away from the base for the most part, except for his crew, the 4 dudes who are showing up there, Vel and Cinta on their side doing their thing. I love the underwater stuff. That's very similar to what you saw with Cal Kestis. So certainly a nice illusion there. But we see them playing an integral part with shutting down the electronics and getting involved in the heist themselves. Cinta taking out the colonel later on in the episode in a pretty balls out moment, which I thought was pretty awesome as well. But we see them all laying the groundwork for this, and it works so well. The Donnies are there to play their role. They're not aware that they're there to play their role, it seems like, but they are certainly caught up with the ceremony and they're going through the rituals, which was awesome to see. And then when the heist kicks off so well. I mean, immediately it's Andor who initiates it. It's called Andor for a reason. So him initiating the heist by shutting down things, them all turning on J-Hold and the Colonel and his family, them trying to hold them hostage, grabbing the fan, and then, of course, as I said, Cinta coming down and shooting the Colonel. It's interesting to see Vel's hesitation too, right? Vel was a little nervous about jumping over the side. Is this a heights thing? Was she nervous like Nemec was at the beginning? Nemec talking about, I didn't get sleep last night. I'm not going to be sharp. And Andor telling him, no, the excitement is going to get you awake and is going to keep you on point. And he's not wrong about that, for sure. And so you see that come about. We even have Nemec have that exchange with Andor when he says, you're right, I'm 100% awake. I'm really alive about what's going on here. And then Vel eventually is ready to go through with the plan and calls it, and they go in and everything starts to happen. As I said, Cinta kills the Colonel, which I think is a really cool moment there for Cinta, because clearly we hear about Cinta having stormtrooper issues because stormtroopers killed her family. We hear about Terriman being a former stormtrooper. Let me tell you this right now. I predicted some deaths that happened in this episode, but as soon as they said Terriman was a former stormtrooper, I was like, yep, he's going down. But I didn't get a chance to predict that on screen. So I knew immediately as soon as they said that he was probably going to go down. Then this whole thing pops off, and it's really well done. They separate him from his family, so he feels the threat. Vel calls him out and says, when J-Hold says, oh, you're going to kill our whole family, you're going to kill us anyway. Vel says, oh, because that's what the Empire would do. We're not the Empire, pal, so we're not going to kill your whole family. That's not how we roll. They get up there. We find out J-Hold was absolutely lying. He could open the vault with his hand. And then Vel handles the locks, pops them off. They take all this stuff. They enlist the guards. Skeen gets the guards to enlist them to move all this stuff in there. But then Kimsey realizes and hears that there's interactions going on between Nemec and Cinta about the Alkazi station or whatever. And so they get involved. Kimsey and his crew, he gets a crew of soldiers to come and attack. And we get this battle here, which was pretty cool. I thought the battle was good. Terriman biting it as we imagined. I didn't know Cinta was going to stay behind. So what is Cinta's whole role in all this? Is she going to slide in and be part of the Donnies for a little while and then roll off to her next mission? Is Vel going to come back and get her now that she has like almost $80 million in that in the hall that we find out later when Skeen and Andor having that conversation? I don't know. So there's so much about the Cinta stuff that I wonder where she's going to pop up later, and Vel is going to pop up later in all of this. But then the whole thing, that the way it was shot, the tension that was going throughout was so well done. Gorn at any moment could have been found out. Gorn at any moment could have been seen through, and it isn't until the whole thing pops off and Gorn comes down, and J-Hold's reaction is so good. The actor who plays J-Hold, he is just absolutely shocked that it was Gorn. And then he says, you'll hang for this. He goes, working for you for 7 years, I deserve to be hanged, for God's sake. So really powerful moment there. But then when Kimsey comes in and all of that pops off, I like the way that adds tension and ratchets things up. And then we see the 3 TIE fighters rolling through this whole situation. Eventually, Andor gets in the ship with what's left of the crew, except for Cinta, of course, and Terriman, who's been killed, and they take off in the ship. Unfortunately, the payhold hits Nemec. He says he can't feel his legs. I did call Nemec dying, by the way, on a number of shows, so that's no surprise to me. The way he died, though, was a little bit of a surprise on the escape, just when you thought he was out. Because even at the beginning, in the first scene of this episode, they were laying the ground with him. Oh, I can't sleep. Well, Andor says, kind of in a foreshadowing way, you'll sleep when it's over. And of course, he gets permanent sleep, which we'll find out in just a second. But which you see in the episode in just a second. But yeah, they take off. Nemec Vel eventually shoots, I don't know, some kind of medic thing. It feels like some kind of adrenaline shot that wakes him up. He helps guide Andor out of the whole eye and all the debris going through the eye, essentially a pseudo meteor shower, gets them out, and then the TIE fighters are all taken down by the meteor shower. Very similar to Han Solo in the eluding the meteor shower, I think, in A New Hope. So there's a lot of similarities there. And then eventually they land on the planet because there's a battle over whether they want to take Nemec to the doctor. Vel doesn't want to. Skeen and Andor want to. So Andor makes the decision and takes them to the doctor. And while the doctor is fixing Nemec or trying to save Nemec, and this is interesting because the doctor has shades of Maz Kanata and Babu Frick, but I think it's a new species. So we'll find. Hopefully, we'll find out what that is at some point down the road here. But the conversation between Andor and Skeen is really important here, because Skeen taking a certain route. And I think I called it on the Resistance broadcast or maybe the Geek Buddies. I had a feeling Skeen was going to turn. I thought he was going to turn for the Empire, but he did turn for himself instead. But I knew he wasn't a guy that you could 100% trust. The most skeptical is the person you most 100% can't trust, in my opinion, because they're worried that an X factor coming in can unsettle their own plans for what they want to do when the moment arrives. So for me, it just felt pretty obvious that Skeen was going to turn at some point. And then having that conversation with Andor and trying to enlist him. If you don't think Skeen was going to kill Andor the first moment he could, as soon as Andor agreed to take the money, you're crazy. He would have absolutely killed Andor. So in this moment that was very similar to Han and Greedo, because they've made so many allusions to the fact that Andor is the new scoundrel, the new Han Solo here. He shoots first before Skeen can and kills him straight up, which I thought, oh God, is going to put him in a bad position with Vel. Vel's not going to believe him. And sure enough, when he walks in and we find out that Nemec is dead, Vel doesn't believe him. But Andor's, how can I say this? Andor's authenticity, his nobility shines through when he says, I just want to take what I was promised. Here's the Kyber crystal. Give that to your boss. And Vel, although initially skeptical about what he said about Skeen, does hand him the manifesto from Nemec. And I said this, I think, on the Resistance broadcast system review, that I thought he was going to end up with that manifesto, and that manifesto was going to be a part of him changing and becoming a part of the rebellion, that him reading Nemec's words, Nemec's death, was going to impact him in this way. And who knows? And maybe he might even finish the manifesto or send it out to everybody. So just great stuff here emotionally. And we get to the Imperial Security Center, and Radagast is there having an emergency meeting, and he's telling everybody they got to get stuff together by midnight, give it emergency contingency plans for all this stuff, because this rebel attack is now, the news of it has spread now all over the place. We cut to Mon Mothma, who's in the Senate, pleading to have a better bill for the Gormans. And we know that Gorman massacre is going to be essential in Mon Mothma leaving politics and becoming a leader of the rebellion. And just then the news comes over, and she sees everyone's distracted, and she looks herself to see the news of this attack, which is really interesting. Does the Empire not control the news, or are they okay with this news getting out? It's very confusing in that way. And then we cut to Luthen, and Luthen hears about what's happening, and Andor walks in the back and has a big laugh because he's happy that it came off without a hitch. And we don't know yet if Vel is his daughter or whatever, so it'll be interesting to see how that 80 million is spent, minus Andor's cut, of course, is spent in the Empire. So overall, what a fantastic episode. It was tension inducing from the first moment. The philosophical discussions I thought were really cool. The twists and turns of this worked so well. The timing of them, the editing within this episode worked really well. The score. If I have any drawbacks, I thought it was weird that they used the Donnies in a way to just kind of distract you from what's going on with the heist, and they were there to celebrate. Maybe someone can illuminate me a little bit more on the usage of the Donnies, because it felt kind of similar to Boba Fett, where they used the Tuskens to kind of elevate Boba, but then they never really returned to the Tuskens, which I thought was a bit of a mistake. And there were Native American allusions, at least for me as an American, Native American allusions to the Tuskens' role in Boba's story. So I felt the Donnie's role here had some similarities to that, which I didn't 100% like. So if there's anything I can ding the episode for, it's that. But maybe one of you can illuminate me, as I'm just reacting after watching it this morning about the role. Maybe they played a bit more of an important role in the whole situation. But the visuals of the eye and the ceremony, that was incredible. As I said, the Celestial event was so phenomenal. The money being spent in this show, you can tell when it shows up on screen why it was spent that way. And it really does make this, it really does elevate this show. It is already my favorite Star Wars show, period, bar none. And it is getting real close to being one of my top favorite Star Wars projects of any kind, TV show, movie, comic book or anything that's ever been released, because it just speaks my language, and I love it to pieces, and I enjoy the hell out of it this morning. And I love the progression of Andor. It's the 6 episodes now. We're seeing him slowly moving towards the rebellion, being a part of it, understanding the stakes, seeing what people are willing to sacrifice in order to fight the Empire, seeing the Empire's effect on other people as well a little more vividly here. We're seeing this all happening, and Andor's life. And you might argue, well, Andor would have seen that for years. He would have been experiencing that for years. Yeah, it's true. But sometimes you're at a place in your life where the things that were around you all the time, and you just kind of accept it as a way of life, all of a sudden you kind of turn a little bit and you view it in a different light because your mind is finally opened up to see this stuff and take it for what it is, and it affects you and how you live your life. So I think that's an element that's going on here in the progression of Andor as he becomes this celebrated rebel within the rebellion in Star Wars. So those are my overall thoughts. Incredible direction, great score beats. Susanna White once again doing a phenomenal job directing this episode, and then seeing everything that popped off in the action sequences. That was a sequence that was so well done. The timing of it all worked so well, and the ending of it all was believable as well. They never make you let go of the tension of the fact that someone can turn on you at any minute. This isn't let me make you feel good about Star Wars show. And I love that. It's real, it's gritty, it's honest, it's unsettling, it's authentic. It's how it would be on the ground level. When everybody else is talking philosophical stuff and fighting with lightsabers, we're down here on the ground. It's a little bit different, and I love that, and I love that we're seeing that here. And Tony Gilroy doing a phenomenal job with this series overall, for sure. What'd you think about it? Did you like this episode? Did you love this episode? Did you not like this episode? Let me know in the comment section below. What stood out to you? What didn't stand out to you? Did you predict some of the stuff that happened in the episode? Let me know down there as well. Hit a like on this video, share it on your social media, and more than anything else, please subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button so you see we're dropping all the content we do here on the Outlaw Nation channel. Head on over to Twitch, follow me there as well. The Outlaw Nation, all one word, and the Patreon, patreon.com/John Rocha. All right, look for the Geek Buddies review coming up to either later today or tomorrow from us there on the Geek Buddies. We're going to have fun talking about it for sure. And I'll talk to you next time with another brand new, just saw it reaction or spoiler review here from the Outlaw Nation.